This is the It's Just That podcast, brought to you by Alpaca, growth strategists. It's just that are potentially the three most negative words in the English language, at least where business is concerned. In this podcast, we are going to be exploring some of the backstories of our favourite clients, local business people and prominent entrepreneurs, and exploring a little bit more about what's stopping them from achieving the things they dream about. For us, it was buying that Ferrari. For them, who knows? We'll be sitting down in a Ferrari, having a drive around in a Ferrari, and talking to them about their art of the possible, the things they want to achieve but thought they couldn't. So, it's just that. This morning, picking up Jacqui Hall from CNG Energy in Harrogate, here at the lovely Rudding Park. Jacqui has an interesting backstory, built CNG up into quite an interesting business, customer service at its core, but recently a victim of the energy crisis that we've all seen in the news. CNG no longer with us, so we're going to have a chat with Jacqui about that story and what her latest challenge is, and see where that takes us.
Richard.
Morning, Jacqui.
Hiya. Oh, this is nice.
It is. It is. I haven't driven it for about 3 weeks.
Oh, it's lovely.
I've been in our other pool car, the electric Zoe, and I must admit, I got in it this morning and had a bit of a scary moment with some wheel spin pulling out of a garden centre. I'm sure everyone thought I was being a bit of a tool, but it was completely accidental. How are you anyway?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
I thought what we might do is go for a little drive,
Yep.
have a bit of a chat about your backstory. Obviously you and I have known each other for a few years,
Yeah.
but there's probably still bits of the backstory I don't know.
Yeah.
What would be interesting is to understand how you got to where you are now, and then what comes next. In terms of how you got to where you are now, I remember coming out to see you at CNG in probably 2016. So you run an energy company, we know the reputation that they have, and I distinctly remember coming out to see you, and all over the walls on whiteboard you got little comments from customers, and they were all really, really good comments from customers. That's obviously something that you were priding yourself on. So
Oh, this is good.
I haven't done that for a while. So yeah, CNG, tell us the story. You joined CNG in what, 2006?
No, I became MD in 2006.
Oh, there you go. That's poor research by me, isn't it, immediately?
No. So I joined CNG in 1998.
Right.
You get your dates all mixed up because it all gets confusing, doesn't it, with 19s and 2000s and stuff. So I joined
the last 2 years are just completely eradicated my brain anyway. So.
Yeah, I'm glad they are, because they haven't been a great 2 years for me either, so that's good. I joined in 98. I knew Colin Nigel Gaines, that's where the CNG comes from, so his initials.
Oh right, so nothing to do with contract natural gas.
No, he just made contract natural gas fit his initials rather than the other way around.
Got you.
Yeah.
That's handy.
Yeah. So he was a guy that came from British Gas. He was one of only 2 people that actually set up, when the market opened up to competition. And I worked with him at British Gas. So
right.
I joined British Gas from being working in hotels. And my background is customer service.
Okay.
That's who I am. I'm not about money. It's all about service.
Yeah.
And actually, when you work in a hotel, which was always my ambition, because I've worked in hotels for years, really to own hotels and have a chain of hotels myself. My future mother-in-law decided that I was working far too hard in the hotel trade. I didn't get paid enough.
Right.
And so she worked at British Gas, and she thought I should get an interview there and see if I liked it. I loved working at British Gas, by the way. They were a really good company to work for then. I'm not saying it's the same now, but they were definitely then. And it was all about the people. They looked after their people. They trained them, nurtured them, managed their careers really well. So I Transco was one of those pieces, and which is now National Grid. But I joined Colin a couple of years later. I worked in another energy company in Harrogate before joining Colin. Joined Colin. I was pregnant with my daughter, but I didn't realise I was pregnant. And I said to Colin when I realised I was pregnant, I know how hard it is for small businesses to have pregnant females. Do not take me on if you are going to struggle. And he went away and he had to think about it. But he said, no, I want you to come. And the rest really is history, because I started with Colin. I loved working at CNG. I could make a difference. It was only a small company, so I could make a difference. And I realised that was one of the things I was really good at, is actually working with other people that actually sparked my entrepreneurial spirit, so to speak. So yeah, Colin, it was a bit of a lifestyle business, to be fair to Colin. He enjoyed it as much as he loved being the leader of this organisation, but he wasn't as ambitious as I was.
Okay.
Unfortunately, he was diagnosed with cancer in 2004. He'd already promoted me and my fellow director into being directors, so we were running the business on a day-to-day basis. But when he was diagnosed with cancer, he decided that I was going to be the managing director to take over from him. He wanted us to buy the business so that his family could, get the money, because he knew he was terminal, and therefore that was really when it all started, to be fair, because when Colin passed away in the July of 2006, I became managing director.
Yeah.
But at that time, Gazprom had entered the market in the United Kingdom, so we all know who Gazprom are, this big Russian bear. And I just felt that these guys were going to just trample all over us as an organisation. So I needed to think about how we could compete with somebody like Gazprom, because they'd only just bought our real competition, a company that we'd sort of like grown up with. So I was really worried about the business, and we needed to do a management buyout so that the family could inherit Colin's estate and move on. So strategically, we needed to look at, right, what did we need to do? And it was hard work, but we took on being a partner with Glencore, who are the biggest commodity trader in the world, and they were a shareholder of CNG, and we had to grow up overnight. These guys
Another lovely cuddly company.
Yes, but I actually didn't see them as bad as they actually were. We really had a great relationship with the people that worked in the United Kingdom. They weren't like the rest of the organisation, to be fair. But yeah, it was hard work. We had to grow up overnight. This was a family business that actually had to have board minutes and packs and legal stuff. That was something actually that I have to say, one of the things that I always remember when Colin had passed away, the one thing that I wish we'd done better up until that point was take proper advice.
Okay.
Colin used his mates for all the advice and help, and some of that wasn't really legally drawn up correctly, and it didn't look after the business properly. And so I would recommend to anybody, please seek proper legal advice if you're going to do anything, because it's so important.
That bit wasn't scripted.
No.
Again. I like that.
Absolutely. It's the most important thing that I learned within a few months of Colin passing away, is actually, if we'd have done things better with the right tools, it wouldn't have been so painful, and it was very painful.
So back to CNG, you said always take good advice from lawyers. But so what happened then? You get Glencore involved.
We did get Glencore involved.
Where we
and
still
they were
late 2000s?
2000s, yeah. So 2007 really were when they became involved in the business, and they actually gave us the opportunity to really grow.
Yeah.
Because up until that point, it's very difficult to grow an energy business because you need a lot of money for your credit lines to make sure that you purchase the gas forward. You need to back that off with credit lines.
So stop there, because I'll bet most of the people watching this don't have a clue that big energy has a bad reputation, possibly warranted, possibly not.
Yeah.
But you sit at home heating your house, not thinking about how that works. So when you say you need credit lines to buy your gas and back it off, go on, treat me like treat me like an idiot. You won't have to try hard. How does that work? How does being an energy business work then?
So basically, you sell a contract on today's prices. So, for example, under normal circumstances, we're dealing with gas at about 50 or 60p. So we back that gas off because we've sold a fixed price contract. So we back that gas off because we can't afford for the gas to go up and down in price.
Right.
So, but because we've bought that gas and we have to back that contract off, we also have to put a credit line in place because the people we're buying it from need to know that if anything happens to you, that they can sell that gas back into the market and they will not lose money.
Right.
That's how.
So what does back off in that?
That means in a credit line. So we have to put credit up for the margin that the price of that gas might fluctuate. So it's a mark to market exposure that they have. So we have to put that credit up to cover that margin. When the weather is really cold, therefore, you're probably using more gas than you probably would have thought you would use. And when the weather's really mild, you aren't burning the gas that you needed to buy. So you're balancing that gas on a day-to-day basis. The industry balances on a day-to-day basis. So when you're using lots of gas, because the weather's absolutely freezing, the breeze from the east was absolutely freezing throughout the whole country, and the price was £5. A lot of energy companies lost a lot of money trying to fulfil the need to purchase £5 worth of gas, and bearing in mind that most of our electricity is made with gas as well. So you're putting it's costing a fortune.
So it's a bit of a triple whammy.
These
from the east being that when was that? 2017, 18? As I said, anything that happened in the last 2 years has just been erased. But that's when we had ridiculously cold weather in about March, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was end of February, beginning of March.
So you have a triple whammy. It's basically supply and demand. That all of a sudden there's such a surge in demand. The price goes through the roof.
Yeah.
You as an energy supplier have forgive my language, but you've promised to supply that to customers at a certain price?
At a fixed price.
So you've promised to supply it at this price, demand goes through the roof, price goes up to here, and you as CNG are left having to fulfill the contract at this price, but you're buying it at this price. And so overnight you're immediately buying and selling at a loss.
Yeah, you are. And it's only for a short period of time, but we're talking millions and millions of pounds.
Right.
Also, you've got to bear in mind that we're shipping at that time for about 50 other suppliers, and they are either doing the same as us, which is they're meeting the needs of their customers, and therefore they're losing lots and lots of money. And a good, I'm going to say 12, 15, 20 suppliers went under over that period of time because of the market and the volatility in the market. And I know that's we should have some foresight into some of that. You should forecast for some of that, but I think that was a bit of a shock to even the weather forecasters that weather was as bad as it was at that period of time. So I don't think you probably would have been able to predict it that well.
But the companies, these young companies didn't have the
and you don't have the cash. You don't have the cash in your war chest to be able to sustain that, and therefore lots of those businesses went under. And it was because it is the poor investment in the industry, to be fair. So I know that there's lots of talk about the fact that they're badly run businesses and therefore it's their own fault, but I have to say I don't agree. And a business like CNG, who was 27 years, wasn't badly run. It's just the circumstances that it found itself in.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? It's a bit like you pick any of those big industries, banking or energy.
Yeah.
I have no doubt there are some elements that are badly run. There are some elements that are well run. But there's a bit that the general public just don't understand, and then it becomes politicised with a small p when something goes wrong. So it's very easy to say, oh, they were badly run businesses. But from what you're describing, this is why certain industries become monopolies or state-owned, isn't it? If you need that amount of cash to run it, and you are systematically and structurally forced to sell at a fixed price, it's kind of impossible, isn't it, to be a smaller player? And yet you've got the government saying we want more independence, we want smaller players. But if they set a cap too high in terms of your cash reserves, they're not going to be able to play. And if they don't set that cap, it sounds like it's always a bit of a house of cards waiting to come down.
Yeah. And that's the situation. So since the Beast from the East time, the price cap came in for the domestic suppliers, because they the concern was that some of these volatile times would be passed on to the end consumer. And that was something that the government didn't want really to happen, but that was like a kiss of death really to the suppliers, because we then got into the crisis of COVID happened, and most of our customers managed through COVID, even though businesses weren't using any energy. That was a problem for business gas supply and energy supply companies. But we got to a stage really where things opened back up with COVID. We needed more energy across the globe, and prices again skyrocketed. I honestly do believe that there was some politics being played by the Americans and the Russians and the Europeans as regards manipulation of prices. Might be wrong to say that, but I do believe that has been the case. But
no idea, but now we're into intrigue. It's a whole different kind of podcast now. It's like the Russians were up to something in the background.
I know. But it's so we went from back to our average prices have been about 60p to it has been in the £3 range for months, weeks.
So
for a long time.
Back to Beast from the East.
Yeah.
Not sure how much you can explain, but can you give us a flavour how that actually felt? So on that day, and we are literally pretty much talking about
a few days,
a day or a couple of days. In terms of, I'm trying to think of people watching this who might be running a business and going, I can't quite put my finger on this. How did that work? What does that look like for one of those small suppliers, those businesses that went bust? What did that mean? What were they facing that in the space of a couple of days the money going out of their business has gone from where to where? In terms of pounds, shillings and pence, what would that have looked like to those businesses that didn't make it through Beast from the East?
Well, we as a shipper lost 15 million over that period of time, and we're a gas supplier. So some of these, I mean, we were quite a big user of energy at the time, but you're talking over that period of time, a lot of money being lost. And it's not, these guys were also electricity suppliers, because most of them do dual fuel. So it wasn't just the gas price, it was also the electricity price. So most businesses wouldn't be able to lose 15 million.
In the space of a couple of days,
I know.
You've got to find an extra 15 million pounds to service your customers. That's...
And we from our perspective, because that's the best one to talk about. From our perspective, it wasn't just the fact that we'd had to find that money from our war chest, but we also had then businesses going under owners' money. And that was our problem. Our predicament was that situation, and we would have struggled had Glencore not come and helped and bailed us out.
So Glencore come back into the picture at that point?
Glencore came back into the picture and helped us and bailed us out from that situation.
Right.
And without them, we would have gone under probably in over that period of time.
Yeah.
And then we've come back through the COVID situation and found ourselves in a dilemma worse than the beast from the east time, because that's just this has just been a prolonged period of time over the 2021.
So is that
That's
what caused that? I'm going through the list in my head of like, is it COVID? Is it Brexit? Is it what caused that, or a combination of all of them?
Politics of the Russian stroke American situation. It's all of those things. It was a perfect storm. So where we said that the beast from the east we thought was a perfect storm, this is even
That was
worse.
an actual storm. That was a literal storm.
This is a perfect storm of a situation where actually our market is not fit for purpose. It needs, and this is why the guys, all the smaller players in the market who have really struggled with the price cap, they were forced to buy gas, energy, and they could not pass it on to the end consumers because of the price cap. So that's what's driven the market and
So
all the volatility in the market. And this is where CNG's gone under.
Right.
Because of that.
So what's next for you then? What do you do, having built CNG and spent 27 years building that up? Where do you take that spirit of entrepreneurialism and enthusiasm next? And what's your it's just that? Because I've got to weave that in here somewhere. What's the thing you want to achieve? It's just that I can't because.
Yeah, so one of my things was, I did think that I was going to be at CNG for the rest of my working life. So that was from my point of view. So it's just that is, so now that door's closed, ideally it's just that I need to pay the mortgage.
Yeah.
So my needing to pay the mortgage and have a job that actually pays me some money means that some of my spirit has always been in, I take my social responsibility really seriously. I take my working with charities and getting the best out of people to help bring communities together.
Yeah.
That's my niche, I think, I believe, is actually how can I be the person that I grew to be at CNG as regards bringing people together, understanding what works and what doesn't work, getting the best out of people, developing, growing, nurturing, all of those things that I feel I'm really good at. I'm a gut instinct person as well, so I don't need lots of evidence to say that works, because I know it works. Right. So it's just understanding how I can develop this individual that is Jacqui Hall into the next phase of my life, bearing in mind that actually I still need to pay my mortgage. That's my just that.
I can hear the tension there immediately.
God.
There's all this exciting stuff I want to do. No, it's just I've got to pay the mortgage.
I know. And if I didn't have to pay the mortgage, that I would just get on and do it, because you can sort of like see that's something that.
So what is it? Because that's
it.
Forget the mortgage for a second. Jacqui Hall wants to wake up every morning and do what?
In my head, because we don't. I might be wrong in saying we don't, but I don't belong to a church. I'm not that. I don't believe in God, so I don't belong to a church. But I want to belong to a community. I want to be part of something. We actually have a community that we belong to, which is called our work environment. And work is so much more to me than just going to work and earning enough money to pay my mortgage. It's about belonging to something really important in my head, because business is more than just business. It's about being part of it's the social enterprise that is being part of the community and being part of something special. And I know I live in Harrogate, so I'm lucky in that sense, but I'm made CNG into something really special for Harrogate. We got involved with everything.
Yeah.
We sponsored everything. We got involved with some of the guys that used to work for me had friends at school who needed help, and we quietly helped with bits of money here and help bringing people together there. So I think it's about it is building communities and building people that work together. In some ways, it's going back to my because I was the chair of the CBI, and it's utilising all of those skills of all of those different people, and knowing that it's a community of souls that really want to do good and make a difference. And I don't know what that you'd call it.
No.
But it's the social enterprise that is part of community.
It's sort of describing a tribe.
Yeah.
And before you said that, I was sat there listening to you thinking, well, you'd be a perfect non-exec director or chair of a business. And you would, albeit listening to you, maybe that's not what you want. If you need that tribe, the downside to being a non-exec director is, I'm sure you could do it in a different way, but you tend to swan in and swan out, dip in and dip out of each business, don't you? Is that, and what I think I'm hearing is you need to belong to something, to one tribe. So how do you find that next tribe, or how do you create that next tribe? So are you happy with that being in different organisations and creating different tribes, or to you does it have to be, if you went to be a non-exec of a couple of different businesses, is that a positive thing or negative? Is that trying to join two churches for you?
No, you see, I think the skills of both of those churches, for want of a better word, come together, because we've all got, I think that connecting businesses together utilises all the different skills that you've got. We do recruit people like ourselves, in a sense, that we fit with our own group of people, don't we? And so the business over the road might be slightly different, but that's a good thing. So connecting those two businesses together is a good thing. We're utilising our different skills and needs and requirements, and actually we're creating a community, a marketplace where we can barter out and use the legal skills and the accounting skills and whatever else to sort of barter. We don't need money anymore.
So what are you describing in there? Is that a number of different roles? Is it one? Is it did the CBI get close to it, or are you describing something more akin to a foundation?
Or a cult.
That's one path. That's one path. You could do that. Yeah. Is what you're describing. Could you get that thrill from being part of knitting lots of different organisations together? I'm sure you're right that the skills would be complementary, but is that what you want to do? To go, there's almost no one single entity that you're part of. You're joining all the different parts up.
So I think that connecting different businesses together is definitely the way forward.
But what's stopping you from starting the Jacqui Hall Foundation next week and going, this is what we're going to do, we're going to do exactly what you've just described, we're going to create this new marketplace, this new tribe, join skills together, help all these local businesses in Harrogate or beyond?
I think it's probably, from my perspective, is actually being able to talk about it here, sat here now. It's developing that idea into something that actually would work, because you can have a great idea, but it's never going to go anywhere without the right people helping you to get that off the ground. My skill set is actually coming up with some of the ideas. I'm not a computer finisher at all. Right. So I think it's basically sitting round the table with some really good skill sets and saying, so how could we do that? I think that's what's stopping me, is actually I need to bring some people together and say, right, this is the idea, what do we think? And then it's evolve it.
So what would those people look like? I mean, is there anybody? Is there someone doing what you want to do? Is there Help me get a
Actually,
mental image that you go, it's that person running that organisation.
Yeah, I think it probably is, but I haven't got that far yet. I'm probably on a journey towards that now. I don't think it's anything is stopping me. I think it's just I'm starting the journey.
Right.
Really.
If I was being controversial, I'd say something's stopping you because you haven't done it yet.
No, well maybe it is because actually one of the things is about paying my mortgage. So that I've got to be realistic.
Yep.
So that is one of the things, but it's not going to stop me forever. It's just I've got to get round that. What does that need to happen? What do I need to do to make that happen?
Could you cleave the two things in half? Could you take the number that you need to pay your mortgage and go, I'm going to do this job and that will pay for that.
Yeah.
You know, I'll take a non-exec role here and that pays my mortgage. Done.
Yeah.
Now I'm free to go do all the other stuff.
And I've got all this time now that I can spend on doing all this other stuff.
Yes. Because it feels like you're bundling the two things up into one issue and going, I want to do all this really exciting stuff. It's just that I can't pay my mortgage.
So,
okay. Yeah. What if you could take the mortgage out of the equation?
Yeah. Definitely.
And then, take the mortgage out of the equation paid for by one role and then do something differently to do the exciting stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just need to start the Jacqui Hall Foundation.
Yeah.
This has been fab. Thanks for your time.
Oh, thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yes.
Meanwhile, I can't let you go without making you have a go.
Excellent.
So, not much to know. He is a pussycat. Handbrake doesn't always come off. You'll figure it out. You don't even have you don't even have a handbrake in your car.
Well, it's because it's
But there's a handbrake somewhere.
Yeah.
So it is effectively like any car. It's a big old puppy dog. It's relatively easy to drive. Keep it out of second gear. Don't rev it above 2,000 revs. Make sure you're kidding. Just drive it. Have some fun. You said your dad was a petrol head, but you never got the bug.
Well, probably more than anybody else in the family. He just liked cars.
Right.
Well, he was a driver. He drove tankers and stuff. Are you sure that's sensible?
It's insured.
Oh, I wouldn't like to do this in a car.
So have you ever driven a Ferrari?
No.
No.
I'd be too. Well, I was too scared to drive a Ferrari.
Put it second. Keep going. Keep going till you can hear it. I'm obliged at this point in the conversation to ask what you passed your test in.
A Fiat 500.
An original Fiat 500?
Yeah. I am that old. I was 17, so a long time ago. Yeah. That was the third time I've taken the test. My second car was a Sunny Datsun.
Datsun Sunny?
Yeah. And then
my wife had one of those. Well, it was a Nissan, but...
My third car was a TR7.
Oh, classy.
Yellow TR7 it was called.
I like that.
But I could only afford it for 6 months. I had to give it back because the insurance was so high.
But you did it.
Yeah. And
did you know that when you bought it? Did you know it was a 6-month thing? Or?
Oh yeah, I knew that I'd only be able to have it for a short amount of time because I couldn't afford it really.
Right. And did it work every day?
It was beautiful. It was not that old, but because I am old, so I don't know how long when they stopped making them, but they were still making them at the time, I think.
Yeah.
But I always vowed that I'd buy another one at some point. I'm not sure I would now. I'll probably buy something more like a Mercedes.
Come on.
Something.
Challenge.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Next time I see you.
I just felt like it wasn't as luxurious as
No, I don't think it's going to stand up now as luxurious.
No.
It's like
but
this.
it was adorable, and that for that 6 months. I mean, I used to like this. I used to take all my mum's friends out in it.
Yeah.
And it's only 2-seater, so it was really an experience.
That was part of the point of this. Honestly, the last 2 years have just been.
Yeah.
We all know. I mean, your story's worse than ours. Our business wobbled a bit, stayed standing. It just felt like this was something fun.
Yeah.
And we got, you
Come
know,
to look.
got a couple of the team to use it. And it took a while. A few of them were a bit like you. Oh, it's a Ferrari.
Scared,
Should I
it's
drive it?
scared.
Should I not?
The next time you do it is,
And then-
it's not as
Yeah.
scary as it's the first time that you do it.
It is, and they were worried that it's your Ferrari, Richard. I'm like, it's not. It's a pool car. Use it. It's insured. Please take it. Go pick your kids up from school. And they did. And honestly, the text that we got back then of like, oh my god, I picked it up from school, and my kids think it's the best thing ever. Like that. It's silly. It's meant to be silly. Fun.
Yeah, it was lovely.
Better than a TR7.
I can't remember the TR7, even though I can remember it.
Yeah.
It is, but yeah, it is. It feels really substantial and luxurious.
It's not bad.
It's,
Not bad
to
for a
say it's
26-year-old car.
26-year-old
Yeah.
lady. So
Jackie, thanks for your time.
thank you for having me.